In this lecture, I will be discuss about two terms, affinity and avidity. So affinity and avidity, these two terms applies on antibody. The antibody consists of two arms by which it can bind with antigen. This is called FAB regions. FAB means fragment of antigen binding. Here is a one and there is another FAB. So antibody consists of two arms by which it can bind with a particular antigen. If an antibody can bind with an antigen, let's suppose it is a antigen. So when a antibody bind with a particular antigen with a single arm, and when it bind with both arm or double arm, the affinity will remain same in both cases. Affinity means strength of interaction. Same strength of interaction when it binds with the two arm. When it binds with a single arm, the strength towards the antigen will remain same when it binds with the two arm. There is no difference between these two arms to bind with the antigen. So this is called valency, single valency and double valency. So if the antibody bind with single arm or it bind with the double arm with a particular antigen like A, the affinity towards the same antigen will remain same or equal if it is bind with single arm or double arm. There is no difference. So when an antibody bind with a particular antigen, if it is binding with a single arm or both arm, there is no difference between affinity. The strength of interaction with the antigen will remain same. If it is a different antigen, then the strength can be different. So depending on the antigen antibody binding or interaction, the affinity can be changed. But if a antibody binds with the two arm with the same antigen, the affinity will not change. Okay, so there is a difference, but avidity differs. Suppose a antibody binding with a antigen with a single arm, let's suppose the avidity is equals to 5. But if it binds with the both arm or double arm, the avidity will increase in 2 times. It will become 10. So the avidity means overall strength of interaction, not like affinity, but avidity change. If it is binding with a single arm, if the avidity is 5, if it binds with a double arm, the avidity will increase. And as you know, a IgM antibody can remain as a pentamer. Pentamer means it can be pentameric. In soluble condition, the IgM antibody is pentameric. In soluble condition, the IgM antibody is pentameric in nature. So each antibody consists of 2 arms. So a pentamer of IgM consists of 10 arms. If this antibody binds with the same antigen with all the arms, if it binds with all the arms, the affinity towards the antigen, suppose it is a antigen, towards the antigen will remain same whether it is binding with the single arm or all the arms, 10 arms. But the avidity will change. If it binds with the 10 arms, the avidity will increase. So avidity depends on valency. Valency means how many arms are involved interaction with the antigen. But affinity do not depends on the valency. But the affinity do not depend on the valency. It depends on the antigen. If the antigen change, affinity or the strength of interaction towards the antigen can be different. So this is all about affinity and avidity.